What is up? How's it going today? This is Pancake Marathon, where if you're ready to do a 180, like essentially, it's a you've done so many 360s, right? It's time to do 180 and then do a 360 after you do the 180. And yet, today I want to touch on, you know, understanding a higher power. What is a higher power? I mean, there's so many points to where it's like one of the reasons I bring this up is because my sponsee, upon itself, just has a challenge per se, simply to say, understanding and comprehending the step work. They just can't get past with whatever means of how they're holding themselves back. So in my experience, that's an addiction, right? An addiction, by my experience, is that of pain we have yet learned to love or learn that lesson from. It's a teacher, right? It's the messenger, okay? And so we can all shoot that messenger and not focus on the message, right? Because that's essentially what it is. That's what I meant by that. That they're a messenger, right? They're a message, and it doesn't matter how that messenger takes form, right? Be it the word, the wind, just somebody saying smiling, right? And at the same time, this also came to be as of what it is as to that of the simplistic aspect of step three, right? Because somebody else, when I went down to work out, basically they fellowshipped with me, the meeting after the meeting, where true recovery actually takes place, right? Because in the meeting, it's not that recovery can't take form and shape, but it's not without its limitations. It has to stay within group consciousness and all these kind of things and all that as such, right? Especially in like an outside meeting opposed to an in-house meeting, like a sober living kind of a situation, where in an in-house meeting, because I know when I chair those meetings in there, it doesn't show up to your live. Go ahead and speak how you're going to speak, whatever flavor of recovery that you're going to touch base on. Oh, that's great. You're just doing it. Do your thing. I can't God shame you. I cannot tell you that you're wrong on in and how you're thinking, right? Because am I really living life on life's terms? Am I really trusting my higher power? Am I really being the one that can carry a message at that point when I go and condemn somebody or call them stupid, essentially, which is essentially the same thing? And yet, so that's why I approach it that way. And also, it gives me a peace of mind because I'm not there to do that sober living thing, his job, right? If they're not doing the steps or whatever, then that's on them. I'm not there to be like, oh man, they're late to the meeting. I'm not signing that paper. Nope. It's like, I've done that. Oh my gosh, I probably chaired over 1,000 meetings at this point with 3/4 of those meetings just by myself. For real. And I mean, when I started sponsoring, I so went from an extreme of to where I'm at now, in a sense of saying of oh my gosh, what if, like, this is how I approached it with the whole thinking, right? It was my whole entire everything. Oh my gosh, what if what if they had to eat the same food for 5 days, and then they didn't space out that food very well, and they only had a crumb on the fifth day, and then that's all they had to eat, and then they had to go to bed. Right? It's like, what? I'm not saying that might not happen, and maybe that part never happens, right? Yet, my point being here is, when I started sponsoring, I gave them. I mean, I was like, I don't have a life. I'm gonna always show up to you. I'm gonna hunt you down. Here's your printout. Here's a notebook. Here's a paper protector for that printout. Here's a folder for that. Here's some paper clips. Like, oh my good, oh my gosh, whoa, and it's online. Okay, so it's I'm just saying, there's so many points. And so now I'm not like, when I sponsor, I'm like, you can call me. You don't have to. What are you gonna do in life? Yeah, here's the reasoning of what would make sense. Here's some guidance, right? Let's you know whatever you put into it is what you put into it. I'm not here to do this for you, right? I'm not if you want this, I'll help you. I can help you in the best way I can, and this is how I can do it. And so, so so going back on what I was saying of you know so that sponsee isn't doing the traditional sense of the step work, right? They're doing their recovery, right? So, and there's a point where I can go ahead and say, no, you're wrong. You're not doing the step work. Why aren't you? And it's like, how am I then doing the right thing? How am I then just being a messenger, a leader, a trusted servant, right? That yes, that is not my recovery. Yes, I don't get it. I am not them, basically. And I never approached it that way. Man, let me tell you what, I did like anywho. Basically it's not my recovery, it's theirs. Right? And so yes, they're not doing the traditional sense. And there's all these other factors too. Like they have a challenge in just reading and writing and just recalling and comprehending what is the word saying. Right? Even if they write it. And so it's like, okay. And it's not that they're not just doing stuff in their recovery. That's not really what it's about. It's a simple fact of the matter being that they are showing up in their life. They are doing their recovery. Yeah, they have this audio app thing that reads the big book, the AA book to them. Okay, that's great, right? And it's like because they have to, like, life on life's terms, right? They have to go to work, like all these things, and then they have to do self-care, and they got to get past their mental gymnastics into a state of serenity, nirvana, a non-judgmental state of emotions upon itself. And sometimes that's a challenge, especially if you just started doing things differently, right? A moment of clarity, spiritual awakening, you know and so simply simply to say though simply to say, so they you know are showing up in their life. They're doing the do. It's just not my recovery. It's not traditional recovery. It's not world service approved recovery per se. Maybe, in a sense of saying, the steps and how they're doing it is, but the step work per se in recovery isn't world service approved. I think that makes sense. I think that's the thing. Anywho, and so, um, it's life. It's what it can be, what you make it. And then, touching on the whole other thing, like I fellowshipped with somebody, right? And so, essentially, and so, there are these points here where, um, going back on, because I just paused it and did something. I'm like, what am I doing? Um, Simply to say is, so step three, I was fellowshipping with them, and they're like, I'm stuck at step three. I have a higher power, but I don't agree with the religious background that I have, essentially. And simply to say, I was like, you don't have that. Doesn't have to be your higher power. You know, um, I was like, my higher power at one time was myself. Whoa, don't what? You can't do that. So you're good at God shaming me right now, because that's where I was at my recovery. Because to understand that in the simplest way of saying is, how did I pick in my evolution of a higher power, right? That of one phase of my higher power development is that of myself. Why? Because I associated myself with that dis-ease, distance from ease, the dis-ease, and that addiction, right? Which is not the problem when you look into recovery. It was the way that I was approaching life and thinking, and my stinking thinking and the self-seeking, the ego, and all this kind of stuff as such. And so, so it's like the same thing when you pick yourself. You're picking a doorknob or you're picking your shoes. Some would say, you can't pick something physical like that. You can't do it. It's not. Nope. No. 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 That is not recovery. And it's like, oh, okay. That's how you're gonna carry a message. That's cool. Can you really be a leader, or can I condemn you? It could be both at that point. I'm just saying, right? And so, oh, so then because what if you do pick your shoes? It's gonna lead you right into the wherever you're gonna go, right? Oh no, you just relapsed. Oh, okay. Well, you're always a member because you had that desire one time. Yes, you can qualify yourself in a recovery, and you can semi qualify yourself out of recovery. In a sense, I'm just like having this spiritual awakening right now, this moment of clarity, you know, in a sense of itself, a level of humility upon that self, life on life's terms, right? Because what if, you did more step zero research? Okay. And then your life blew up because you burned it down. I've also heard some want to burn down their life because it's what they want to do. Anywho, so um, to say though, um, okay, so even if you do more step zero research, and okay, you did that, fine, that's cool. That's your life. It's your recovery. It's your thing, right? Not a relapse does not have to be part of recovery. Even an accidental relapse is a thing. I've done it before. I did not. My intention was not to use, but it still happened. And how that works out is I didn't reset my recovery time. I just reset the place that I lived at, basically. you know, because I was in um, that one lovely place and I'm not gonna say it, another sober living style kind of thing. Which whoa, that place had so many personalities. It was just a factory of it. Anywho, I'm just there's points here, and so simply to say, so now my clarity and my understanding of a God, a higher power, all these things, right? A moment of serene nirvana with just emotional acceptance, right? Is like sanity or whatever it may be, is maybe unconditional love, maybe in a sense of showing up for that miracle, seeing somebody light up. What's happening right now? Isn't that God? Would that be in the now moment, the strength as is described in recovery? Yeah, that would be me realizing I can build a table, bring something to the table, doing something with my life, being the change I want to see in the world, being a leader, a trusted servant, a teacher that's just the ultimate student that stays teachable, right? And so, simply to say, so pick your shoes. It's going to lead you somewhere. It's your intent. Even if you feel that you backstepped, maybe you took 3 steps forward and you only took a step back. Even if you took 2 steps forward and you took a step back, you're still a step ahead no matter what. And so, even if you pick a doorknob, right? It's your life, right? And so, you know, so basically, it came in a sense of with that when I was explaining that to them, it came down to clarity, a moment of relief, right, from that obsession, that new addiction, right? I'm stuck at step 3 because I don't comprehend, but it says right there in step 3 or step 2, you're coming to believe. Yeah, sure. There's a way where it's that when you're there, you're still coming to it, right? Even though you are it, it's just a paradoxical thing in a sense of saying, but you're coming to believe. It's not saying you have one. It's not saying you're never going to get one. It's saying you're coming to believe in something, right? Greater than yourself, which to me, that's just the ego. And that point, you're really still, so step 1 through 3, you're still really associating yourself with that addiction, basically, which is really the way you're looking at it, which is really just a problem, right? You're thinking, basically, right? your thoughts, the persons of how you're approaching life, right? And so, anywho, so step three is really about coming to believe. It's not you have one. It's not that you're not gonna. It's like you're being an agnostic. Absolutely. Agnostic is just a fancy way of saying you're willing to ask questions and it's still you just don't know how things fit into your life, but you believe something, right? Okay. That's where it's like some would say, I don't care if you don't believe in anything, pray. At least it's going to take your mind off the obsession just for a moment. Do it. I heard that from somebody like the early stages of recovery where they're like, you're going to effing die. Do you really want to die? Okay, if you don't call me every day, you're done. I don't care about you. It's not that I don't care, but you don't care about yourself, so how can I care? And give you that and act like something's going to come from it. It's like, oh, man. Whoa. It's like, whoa. And so, with all this coming together and piecing itself into life, right? Because isn't that what it is? Um, so it's, step three, you're coming to believe. Step one, you admitted, right? Because that's kind of what it is. Step two, you come to believe. Step three, you made the decision to keep coming to believing in something. I get there's a point where, yes, you need a sponsor to translate this yesteryear language, I get it, into something you can comprehend, the metaphor, so you can actually experience it through your own means, the quote. Because the proverb, this yesteryear quote, is a cheesy statement, and it doesn't make sense because you are just getting back into your life. You've never done anything as such other than, run away from life or whatever it may be, even if you have. Because everybody's at a different level, for real. For real. Ooh, isn't that the truth? Let's pick up that mic though, right? Because sometimes we drop the mic. I wonder what Mike did. Why did we drop him? Why did we beat Nick? I don't know. Right? There's so many word plays here, but I'm just saying, right? Because yes, there's points where words have deeper face values other than the face value and all that jazz. Yeah, simply to say, what's your intent here, right? And everything like that. And there's so many ways of losing yourself to find yourself and all of these things, right? But that's the power of coming to believe in something, right? To make a decision, right? To what? Having a higher power. Just a moment of saying, oh my God, God, please take this weight off my shoulders just for a moment. A serenity prayer, right? All you're doing is asking, I want some serenity. You're not saying, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Because you get to learn the lesson no matter what. You get to show up into your life. You don't have to, but then what? You're just going to complain and act like, someone's going to come save you and welfare is the greatest thing in the world? There's no difference there, to be honest. And yet, because this is a spiritual thing, you do show up into your life. And you put forth the effort, the action, the goal, set through the steps, which are goals, which are actions, which is maybe through that you can find your why and your how. Why? Welcoming yourself home. What? Wonder about today, right? And so simply to say, the how is always about how you're going to be honest, open, and willing through your why or what. Why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? Find your purpose, right? So then, anywho, this is what I have to give today. Maybe I gave what I could give. Yes, I did. Maybe you are taking each grain of salt that I have, and now you're seeing that you don't have to carry that big bag of salt anymore. And maybe you're able to, somebody's needs some salt because they're so bland, right? And that's okay. And maybe you're at your 30% right now, and that's fine. But maybe that's someone's 100. but you can only see 10% of love if you don't make room for the rest. Right? Anywho, thank you for, of God, of my understanding, for showing up in my life because, oh, hey, right? Thank you, God, that I comprehend, basically, simply to say. Because I can talk in recovery all day, every which way, shape, and form, but there's more to life than just recovery. There is. Yet, if that's where you're at, to building up to some clarity so that you can do something in life, bring something to the table, maybe even build a table, what's wrong with you practicing life? Right? You're not here to perfect life. You're here to come to accept who you are. That's spirituality in its simplest form. Because you are beautiful. Yeah, there's the ego in a sense of itself, but even that's beautiful. It's just a tool that helps us practice being here in our lives, in our life, whatever this may be to you. I can't see through you, for I am blind. And even if you're blind, the blind is leading the blind at this point, with no malice of an eye for an eye. And yet, an eye for an eye makes everyone blind. Wow, I just got a whole spiritual awakening upon that self, an eye for an eye. And yet, my intuition says, don't say it here. So, since I'm choosing to listen to all my intuition's things now, basically, when I was deciphering, is that the ego or is that my intuition? I don't know. It's almost the same thing sometimes, but there's a point where it's like, do I go ahead and embrace what the ego says and accept that the intuition and I can hear it, listen, and all that, but I don't have to do it because I have free will, but all this. But anyway, oh, whew. Coming to believe in something is a challenge, and making the decision to follow that belief is life. But I try. I try. Yeah, anywho, thank you for making this part of recovery, everybody. Have an amazing one, because it's always amazing. It's always a great day, unless you have other plans. I'm just saying, I don't know. What do you want to do in life, right? Even if you do seemingly create this chaotic disharmony of whatever it may be, it's still a harmony in the making, because it's the whole beginning to the end to the beginning, as above so below, as within so without. And I'm just saying, ooh ah. Anywho, have a great day. I love you. Thank you.